98 or 99% of water, fluoridated water, is used to water my lawns out here, wash our cars, flush our toilets, wash our dishes for industrial use. So it's just not effective use of a medication. If I gave you 100 pills and you threw 99 of them away, I mean, you took one pill, that's not good use of a medical product. So we're not making use of a good, even if it did work, which it doesn't, and even if it was safe, which it isn't, it's not a good way to do it through the water system because we lose 90 to 99% of it.
With the news that President-elect Donald Trump will give Robert F. Kennedy Jr. the reins to handle some of the most important health policies in the United States, RFK Jr. has pledged to clean out corruption and conflicts of interest in regulatory health agencies, restoring evidence-based science, and making America healthy again. He's promised that one of his first orders of business is to remove fluoridation from tap water, a process that began roughly 75 years ago in what the United States Center for Disease Control calls one of the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century. In September of this year, an Obama-appointed federal judge ruled that fluoridating water poses an unreasonable risk to human health, citing testimony from government scientists and NIH-funded experts. This is compounded by concerns over fluorosis, a condition caused by excessive fluoride exposure that leads to the hypomineralization of teeth. That's because fluoride doesn't need to be ingested for cavity prevention. Many say its primary benefit to teeth actually comes from topical application, not internal ingestion. A recent systemic review from the Cochrane collaboration, considered the gold standard in evidence, found that fluoridation offers far less benefit than commonly assumed and may have no benefit at all. Most of Europe has rejected water fluoridation, yet they have seen no adverse effects on their dental health. Now, it's few and far between that these important points get media attention. So joining me today to discuss all of this is Calgary, Alberta-based physician Dr. Robert Dickson, to chat about how, despite its safe and effective marketing slogan, fluoride is an industrial waste neurotoxin and carcinogen, leading to reduced cognitive function, effectively dumbing everyone down. As a leading advocate against water fluoridation, Dr. Bob brings 25 years of research on the topic and currently chairs Fluoride Free Canada. But he didn't start out that way. In fact, Dr. Bob initially supported water fluoridation, trusting it as, again, a safe and effective practice promoted by health authorities. But after being challenged by activists to review the actual science, he has since spent the last 25 years advocating against it, and joins me now to talk about what he refers to as bogus science around the soon-to-be antiquated practice.
Even the original studies on fluoridation in the 1940s, late 40s, and early 50s were just so manipulated and cherry-picked, and they were shut down before they were even finished. And they've been based on their science essentially on those premises and on the propaganda from Edward Bernays, the grandnephew of Sigmund Freud. They've been basing their propaganda on that for decades.
Coined the father of public relations by author Christopher Bryson of The Fluoride Deception, Bernays knew he could make industry lots of money through PR campaigns and, more broadly, by capitalizing on the unconscious trust people have in medical professionals, be it their doctors, dentists, etc. So it was a great way to promote fluoride. Dr. Bob challenges these strongly held beliefs about the safety and effectiveness of fluoride, citing numerous studies that indicate potential health risks, particularly for children.
Whether it's sodium fluoride, natural calcium fluoride in our groundwaters, whether it's hydrofluorosilicic acid that's scrubbed out of the waste stacks of the fertilizer and aluminum industries in Florida, China, and Mexico, you're still getting the fluoride ion, which is not good for kids, for women, for anybody. But there's a difference in toxicity levels there too, and there's some controversy around that. But the pharmaceutical grade fluoride that you get in your toothpaste, your mouthwashes, your gels and foams at the dentist, etc., is cleaned, it's purified. There's controls over that. The hydrofluorosilicic acid that's scrubbed out of the fertilizer stack industries, primarily Florida and China, it comes totally unadulterated, totally adulterated. It's not cleaned. So it's not allowed in the air, in the rivers, lakes, or streams or ground by strict law, so they have to dispose of it properly at many thousands of dollars per ton. unless they convince doctors and dentists that it's good for children's teeth, and then they can sell it to us and put it in our city water with all these things like lead, calcium, lead, cadmium, arsenic, brontium, strontium, other radionuclides as well. And none of those are good for you. They're in trace amounts, but those bioaccumulate in the body. So, yeah, the hydrofluorosilicic acid is not a good thing to be putting in our city water, particularly after, if you're from Ontario, like Toronto, or 71% of Ontario is fluoridated. And so that means you clean the water, your city cleans the water in 4 or 5 different stages, and then just before it comes to your home, you inject hydrofluorosilicic acid into it with all these trace elements of bad things in it. So, yeah, it's not good for fetuses. It's not good for babies or children. It's not good for women with thyroid problems. It's not good for patients with kidney problems. It's not good for your bones, for your gut microbiome. It's not good for anything. And it's not needed for anything. So, I mean, scientists and researchers and doctors have come out with that data essentially for the last 70 or 80 years, but no one's listened to them. But recently, now we have Canadian studies at 0.7 parts per million, which is the acceptable, safe and effective level, supposedly. Canadian studies using the MIREC cohort across Canada. And then there's studies from Mexico and now some from the States as well, funded by the NIH. And so those studies are all showing for the last 10 years that, yes, hydrofluorosilicic acid and fluoride are damaging to fetuses and to kids' brains to the point of between 1 and 15 IQ points loss. That is huge. And the higher level is more with bottle-fed babies that are fed using fluoridated tap water. And then there's up to a tripling of ADHD, which we do not need in our society. So brain damaging, proven with the National Toxicology Report that finally came out in August, proven with the court case that we won in September. On September 24th, the judgment finally came out, proven neurotoxicity. And also, add to that the ineffectiveness studies that have come out this year. The Cochrane collaboration, which is the gold standard of medical evaluation. They just came out with one in October showing that virtually no effectiveness of fluoride ever in any of their studies. And then the huge Lotus study out of England that just came out earlier this year with 6.4 million people in that study. And that showed over a 10-year period between 0 and 3% effectiveness with water fluoridation. 0 to 3%. So that's virtually negligible, as you can tell. We've let the pro-fluoridationists get away with saying 25% effectiveness, and we have lots of studies to dispute that, but we let them get away with that. But they say 25%. They don't say we're saving half to 1 cavity a lifetime in a kid, because that's what it is. That's what 25% is. But 25% sounds a lot better. Oh, we're saving 25% of cavities by putting this neurotoxin in our water for everybody to drink at uncontrolled doses. Whew.
Dr. Bob further points to World Health Organization data showing that dental cavities have decreased at the same rate in both fluoridated and non-fluoridated countries, highlighting that regions like Europe have upwards of 97% non-fluoridated water with no material difference in tooth health. Quebec and British Columbia are upwards of 98% non-fluoridated, yet comparisons between places like Vancouver, BC, and Toronto, Ontario, which is heavily fluoridated, show no material difference, effectively debunking the need for water fluoridation using real-world data. Regardless, Dr. Bob thinks that plebiscites are not a good way to conduct medicine, and there are serious ethical implications for sweeping water fluoridation.
It's the head ethicist at the University of Calgary in the medical school that's pursuing me with the College of Physicians and Surgeons and trying to take my license away and trying to shut me down for the last almost 6 years now. It's totally unethical to mass medicate with anything. Do you want Prozac in your water? Do you want aspirin, Tylenol, whatever? No, we don't want any medication in our water because we cannot control dose or dosage. And that's one thing they'll never address with us. The pro-fluoridationists will never address the difference between concentration and dose. Well, concentration is putting 0.7 parts per million of anything, any medicine, in this case fluoride, into the water. Now, if you drink 10 glasses and I drink 1 glass of fluoridated water, you're getting 10 times the dose. Is anyone telling you there's a difference there? Is anyone controlling that? Is anyone monitoring that? Is anyone monitoring the effects on your thyroid, your kidneys, other parts of your body? The answers are no, no, and no. So no control of dose or dosage is highly unethical, and there's no informed consent neither. So with fluoride or hydrofluorosilicic acid, about 50% is eliminated by the kidneys, but the other 50% is sequestered in bone, a little bit in the neurological tissue. It crosses the blood-brain barrier, so some in the brain and the neurological tissue. So that 50% is not something that we want. And then, of course, if it comes from hydrofluorosilicic acid, then there's the things I mentioned previously, the arsenic, the lead. I mean, we've tried really hard to get arsenic and lead out of our systems for the last 60, 70 years. It took about 70 years to get, and that's where that saying comes from, get the lead out. You know, you tell people to get the lead out. Well, it took us 70 years to get the lead out of our water and out of our paints and out of our gasoline in our systems. Yeah, you don't want those things bioaccumulating in your body because they interfere with virtually every cell, every organ, every system, every function in the body. So bioaccumulation is not a good thing with fluoride or with any of the other things that it brings along with it or that it enhances or potentiates. 98 or 99% of water, fluoridated water, is used to water my lawns out here, wash our cars, flush our toilets, wash our dishes for industrial use. So it's just not effective use of a medication. If I gave you 100 pills and you threw 99 of them away, I mean, you took one pill, that's not good use of a medical product. So we're not making use of a good, even if it did work, which it doesn't, and even if it was safe, which it isn't, it's not a good way to do it through the water system because we lose 90 to 99% of it.
With RFK Jr. promising to start the process of removing water fluoridation on January 20th, 2025, Trump's first day in office, Dr. Bob says that Canada will look really silly in light of all the evidence and this recent court ruling if we don't follow suit.
So we're going to look really silly here, say in Calgary, for instance, if we were to continue with fluoridation, which we spent $28 million on the infrastructure in the last 3 years, and we're supposed to have it in March, February, March of this coming year. So if we're going to continue fluoridating when the rest of the world, the most fluoridated country in the world, the USA, is saying, well, we know it's toxic and unsafe, so we're going to stop it for 220 million Americans. And we're going to keep doing it here just because we've spent the $28 million already, and we can't be bothered to stop it. We're going to look pretty silly. So the message is, please look at the science, and not just look at it like you have in the past, but look at it closely and use the conglomeration of all the science we've had in the last 10 years, but particularly the studies in the last year. And just admit that is not a common sense medical practice. It should be in the Museum of Failed Public Health Practices. And that's the main message. It's a neurotoxin to our fetuses, our babies, our children, and it does no good. So we're going to spend a lot of millions of dollars to do something that's not effective and not safe. Look at this, folks. And for the people out there that want to do something, if you're in a fluoridated area, call, email, talk to your politicians and say, look, here's all the science, all the information. It's available on our website, which you have a list of our websites, Safe Water Calgary and Fluoride Free Canada, and then the Fluoride Action Network out of the States. All the science is on there. So show that to your politicians and say you want that out of our water. You don't want to be ingesting that every day at uncontrolled doses.
Something else is threatening our health, and it's being done under the guise of pandemic prevention and preparedness. Bill C-293 threatens our agriculture, health, and personal freedoms, giving the government unchecked power to target animal agriculture under the guise of public health, all while pushing a vegan agenda that could destroy Canadian farmers' livelihoods and limit our food choices. To learn more and take action, visit killtheveganbill.com and sign our petition. That's killtheveganbill.com.